Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Jessie Marie Does Stuff podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Marie. I can be found on Ravelry. My username there is Hokiness. That's Hokie Knits. I am also on Instagram, and my username there is Jessie Does Stuff. Show notes for the podcast can be found at jessiedoesstuffpodcast.blogspot.com, and that's actually true now. I've finally started uploading show notes. And I've changed things around. So the show notes are actually written into the blog before I even record. So that way all I have to do is stick in the video file, and then things are all said and done for me. Who'da thunk? Let's see, what else do I have to tell you? Oh, today is Thursday, May 28th. I am recording on Thursday. Can you believe it? How exciting. Now, the funny part is that the weather is indeed turning. We are expecting some late afternoon thunderstorms, and so the clouds are rolling in and I'm losing good light. So I'm recording right now because I will not have the opportunity tomorrow. I have to work tomorrow morning, and I have some things that I need to do before work, so I must record today. And so that's what I'm doing. Let's see here. Things around the podcast are going to get a little bit light. And I know that this is going to be to the chagrin of so many of you, but the episodes really are going to shrink down. And I'll explain that a little bit as we go along. You'll understand by the end of the episode why things aren't going to be as stuffed, full of stuff. So yeah. But, you never know. I'm really good at rambling. I'm rambling about rambling right now. I'm really good at it. So, you never know. The episodes could get longer, just with less stuff. How many times can you say stuff in 2 minutes and 17 seconds? I think I might hold the record now. Okay, so let's get started. I think that's all of the non-stuff things that I have to say. So yeah, let's get started. First, we're going to talk about cross stitch. I have a finished object. I'm so excited. Now, this is not an FFO. It is not fully finished, but the stitching is all done. Last episode, I talked about the fact that I was focusing on my spring sampler from the Prairie Schooler. This is from book number 60. And so that's what I did. I focused on it. And it's all done. So I'm just going to scan up here. Pardon the wrinkles. It's awfully little. And I used far too big a piece of fabric. Let me see if I can back up here so you can see how much extra fabric. Not exactly a good use of fabric on my part, but that's okay. So I shared on Instagram, I believe it was Saturday, when I got the border all finished. And on Instagram, I posted about how happy it made me that the border matched up, because there's nothing more terrifying than the border not matching up. So I managed to, it met up just perfect. And then on Sunday, I filled in these two, going backwards here, the sun and the flower here. You can barely see it, but the sun actually, oh, that's really good. You can see that there's a face in the sun, and it's using a color that's just a tiny bit darker than the sun itself. But that's that. And to be honest, when I was looking at the picture of that was on the book 60 leaflet, I didn't realize that there was a face in the sun. It wasn't until I was stitching it and I looked in the pattern, and the pattern showed this face, and I was like, oh, happy surprise. So that's that. I want to do the entire series from that book, but I'm going to take a break for a little while, just because I don't, too much of a good thing. So, March winds and April showers bring forth May flowers. Finish it just before the end of May. Should have waited until June. What was I thinking? So that is my first, or my, not my first, my fourth finished object for 2015. And I love it. I love it so much. I love the colors. I know that I've talked about this ad nauseum, but I really do love how the colors have played out. It just looks so soft and pretty. Okay. Next, we'll move on to whips. As soon as I can set this down, there we go. The next whip that I worked on, I told you guys last episode that I was going to work on my mermaid to try to get that done, because I'm just ready for it to be over. So I picked up my mermaid and I started working on continue working on part 15, and I finished it. So part 15 is here, and it comes down into the rock a bit. Yeah, so thereabouts for part 15. And really what was holding me back on finishing this part was the skin, first of all. That wasn't so bad actually, because this is, for the most part, it's a pretty small section of skin. It's just the bottom part of her stomach. And then the rest of the rock down here. For whatever reason, I just get really tired of these colors, and it was a big chunk of rock that needed to be done in part 15. So it was a slog to try to force myself to work on those colors that I don't like. Fortunately, I don't need those colors anymore, because part 16 was released this past Monday, as it was supposed to, and I don't need these colors anymore. So that's cool. I was going to stick with this just to finish it, because I just want it to be done. I want it to be out of my whip pile. But part 16 came out, and there is so much skin. So much skin. I have never so seriously regretted doing the skin 1/1, and now I think it's too late. I think that ripping it out is probably a gigantic mistake. Just because this is a linen, and so pulling on the stitches that much could warp the linen into a way that it'll never recover. Not to mention, I'm this far on the skin, surely I can get through the rest of her stomach, her chest, her back, her shoulders, the rest of her arm, her face. I have so much skin left to do. But that daunting task is the reason that I put this down after finishing part 15, because I can't bring myself to do it right now. I will finish it, but I just need a break. I also came to another conclusion with this piece. So there are 2 colors of beads, but it comprises roughly 4,500 beads that need to be attached to this. 2 colors. So purple, for pretty much anything on the mermaid, uses the purple beads. So you can see like the spaces here in her tail, and even in her stomach and her arms. She's got beads everywhere. And there's a bunch in her hair too. The white beads are used on the border. And so they come through here and they play with the design in the gold, and then they go all the way along the border itself. And I think I have 5 packages of white beads that will need to be used for this. I don't think that that's really necessary. I love beading, don't get me wrong, but I don't like, it's gonna sound snobby, but like, it's boring. Like, 1 color of beads for probably a month. Like, I could see myself just sitting there for a month trying to attach all of these white beads. I'm not really feeling that. So what I think I'm gonna do, this is tentative, I may change my mind. It's charted so that the beads actually run through as well as in a long line across. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stitch the long line across, and then I will do the white beads in the middle of the gold work there, and as well as in here. And then I'll do the purple beads as they're charted on the mermaid. But But I just don't think that it's really necessary to stitch or to attach all of those beads in a great big long line, especially on a piece this big. You see how long that gold band is on the side there? All of it. There's bead. I mean, it's just bead, 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 bead. So I think that I'm going to replace it with probably a blend of a DMC white and a metallic so that it still gets the sparkle. And it still looks a little bit thicker than the gold metallic here. Or I may just do white. This gold metallic, this is a petite treasure braid. All of these are petite treasure braids. That's not true. There's one Kreinik in here. Anyway, this particular petite treasure braid is very thin. It's almost ribbon-like. Like, it's really, really thin. And so I think that if I do just DMC, it will look thicker than the gold, and so it will look like something special. So anyway, that is my Passion Ricomo Under the Moonlight Sal piece. Just a reminder, the fabric is a 28 count cashel linen. It is hand-dyed fabric by Stephanie, and the color is Lady of the Lake. Still gorgeous. So that's that. Okay, now, the reason, truly, that the podcast is going to get light is that I have made a decision that will probably surprise many of you, especially if you watch for the cross stitch. I have decided to cease working on any of my other whips except for this one. When at the very beginning of the year in 2015, even probably before the year started, I decided that I wanted to get this project done this year. If I get nothing else done, I want to get this project done. And I haven't made it as much of a priority as perhaps I could have. So, this point moving forward, it is my priority, and it is going to be my focus piece until it's done. So what that means is that I won't have multiple whips to show you, and I will really only be pulling this out so that you can see the progress that I've made on it, but that's pretty much all there is need to be done about it. You know, it's going to be really simple. So the cross stitch works in progress section is going to be minimal for several months. So, what project is it? It is my very first Heaven and Earth design. It is Mini Pearl, and the artist is Rachel Anderson. I'll have a picture up here so that you can see what the design is supposed to look like in full. It is currently on my Millennium frame, and I'm not going to take it off. I managed to hurt myself yesterday, and so basically what it boils down to is getting on the floor and rolling up my Millennium frame and pulling the bars apart so that I can get the stretchers in the right way and whatnot. It hurts my back. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it where it is so that you can see progress that I've made. I only started working on this yesterday, and just for a little bit because my back couldn't handle sitting in the chair for very long. It's better now, so no worries. I am better now. I just had to take it easy. So anyway, enough about my back. This is where I'm at with my Mini Pearl. So I am working on page 7 over here. Let's see, when I started yesterday, I had these first 3 columns done, and I started working on this column here, which is the 4th column of page 7. And so you can see I have the first 200 stitches done in that 4th column. This is going to be my focus piece until it's done. Now, I think that I can do a minimum of a half column a day. So about 500 stitches a day is what I can commit to this. If that is the case, and that will be the bare minimum, some days I might do more. In fact, I can almost guarantee that some days I'll do more. Then I have, let me think. I have the rest of this page, which is another 5 columns. let's say that I can get this done in 8 weeks. 8 weeks tops, I'll have this done. So I have page 7 here, and then page 8. Page 9 is a partial. And then 10, 11, and 12 are all three are half partials, so they're half pages. And that's really all that I have to do to get this done. I love this project so much. It's one of my absolute favorites. There's nostalgia associated. It's my first Heaven and Earth design. This signifies the very beginning of my cross-stitching. I absolutely love this project. And so getting this done this year will be really, really important to me. And so I'm going to make it my priority. I'll worry about other whips and other stitch-alongs later on down the line, but for now, this has to be it. So, a couple of things about Mini Pearl in case you've never seen her before. This is a mini Heaven and Earth design, which means that she's smaller than the original artwork. I started her in April of 2013. I am stitching this on 25 count Lugana, and if you think Lugana is soft, Lugana, after 2 years of being worked with, is so soft. I mean, it's like butter almost. It's wicked soft. I love this fabric for Heaven and Earth designs. This is really where I learned that I liked this fabric for Heaven and Earth. So yeah. So there's my Mini Pearl. I absolutely love the scroll work along the sides. It's one of my favorite aspects of this design. I just love that. So that's that. And so I'll show you next week how far I get along on it. So that's it for my whips. I have a finish. I have a page finish on my Under the Moonlight Sow and Mini Pearl. That's it. So now for stash enhancements, I have 2 things to show you. First of all, the third Mirabilia Damask Roses. I talked about this last episode. I ended up with 3 of them. The pending giveaway is still under works. I haven't ironed out all the details still, but you can see that this one came from ABC Stitch there by the label. Just arrived today. So this will go in my giveaway pile. The other thing that I got, and you will have to forgive me if you are the reason that, if you are the person who enabled me to get this, let me know so that I can give you due credit. I will post it on the blog so that I can just thank you for showing this book. I saw this on a floss tube video recently, and then I sort of went all hazy, and I had to go get it. So I looked on Amazon, and it was like $30 on Amazon. And I really liked the book, but I wasn't willing to spend $30. So I checked on eBay, and I found it for $5, shipping included. So the book is Cross Stitch Sentiments and Sayings from Joan Elliott, and this has a ton of designs in it. I'm just going to show you the ones on the cover. Let's see, this one here says it's my mess, and I love it. I'm totally gonna make that for my office / craft room. Complaints to the cook can be hazardous to your health. Very true. Too much of a good thing can be wonderful. This should go amongst my stash as well. And then I'm not going to show you all of the book because the person who showed this book before did a wonderful job of walking you through the book. I'm just going to show you the reason that I had to have this book, and then I'll tell you why. It's for this pattern up here. This is not the pattern. This is just an image of the stitched version. So what it says is, my aim is to keep the bathroom clean. Your aim will help. Now, seems like a silly reason to buy an entire book. That saying has special meaning to me. down south at the, Danny's parents have a house down in Blacksburg, Virginia, at Virginia Tech, and in the bathroom is a sign that says, "My aim is to keep this bathroom clean. Your aim will help." And the first time I saw that, I laughed. I mean, I laughed. The weekend that I saw that was the first time that Danny told me he loved me. Oh, I know, it's so adorable. So that has very sentimental value to me. And not to mention, I think it's kind of funny. Anybody who has men living at home understands this. So, so when whoever was going through this book mentioned that pattern, I had to have it. I mean, I just had to go get this book. On top of everything else that comes in this book, oh, this was actually something that I wanted to show you. That's kind of crazy. I just happened to flip open to this. This is a wedding sampler as well as a ring pillow. Today, May the 28th, is 1 year until Danny and I get married. So, you know, it's just like, there's just so much to this book that I just love. And so I just had to get it. So I did. Sorry, I was just looking at the other two books that they have listed here. It looks like they are put out by the same, David and Charles, the same publisher. But these are different designers. So one of them is Sue Cook and the other is Helen Phillips. Anyway, love this. And I will be stitching some things out of this in the future. So that's it for cross stitch. Okay, so in knitting, I have 3 works in progress to show you. 2 of which you've seen before. Well, actually, you've seen them all before, but 2 of them I showed last week. So, the first is my interview with a vampire mystery knit along, the designer Lily Go. The yarn is Rendezvous Infinity, which is an 80-10-10 MCN fingering weight, approximately 400 yards. Here it is in the ball. And here is where I'm at on the project. I am mighty far behind. I have only done 3 rows of 10 for part 3. So the progress you will see is not very significant at all. You can probably just barely see the slip stitches there at the top near the cord. I have barely gotten started. Let me see if I can bring this in closer. It's never going to focus because my camera refuses to focus on anything this close. But that's that. So I have quite a ways to go on part 3. Part 3 is really fast. So once I sit down and actually focus on it, I can get it done relatively quickly. And then part 4 came out last night / this morning, which is considerably thicker. There's a lot more to it. I think that part is 15 rows long, and it's getting back into some more lace. So I need to sit down and focus on this and get caught up because I have participated in mystery knit-alongs before where I got behind and then I just abandoned the project completely. And I don't want that to happen with this. I want to finish this. So that's that. Okay, the second project I should have done by now, and I don't. Kind of a bummer. This is knit out of Cascade 220 Heathers in the Aspen Heather colorway. And this is my 3 Cheers wine bottle bag. The designer is Louis Zoss-Bangham. And this is where I'm at. So it's grown since last week, but not as much as it should have. This is the epitome, I think I said before, of TV knitting. It's super easy to work on while watching TV. I just don't want to because I'm bored. I'm really, really, really bored. I almost bound off and felted it as was, but I forgot that I have a yardage requirement for this, and I haven't reached it yet. In order to meet the yardage requirement, to meet the bare minimum yardage requirement, I have to use 80% of my yarn. And so I'm not there yet, obviously. I've got too much of a ball left. So that's that. This I am knitting, and the cool thing about knitting a bag is that the bag can hold the yarn. The cool thing about this, is that I'm learning how to do magic loop. I'm getting really good at magic loop. So you can see that this is basically knitting in a circle. I mean, it's square shaped, but that's just the design elements of it. I'm getting really good at it. So that will make, when I learn how to knit socks, a lot easier, because I'm terrible with DPNs. I cannot get the joins tight enough, so I'm really looking forward to being able to knit socks at Magic Loop. So this is my 3 cheers. I am going to be focusing on this until it is done. And it has to be done, I mean, all the way done. Knitted. I need to knit the handle, I need to graft the handle, I need to bind off weave-in ends, and then I have to felt it. And so my hope is that I can knit the heck out of this until Sunday. And then on Sunday I can do the finishing of it. I can get it all the way finished. So that is the goal, hope, plan. Because Loopy Academy is over as of Sunday at midnight. And I would hate to get this close and not be able to get it done. So this is going to get done. It's not a goal, it's not a hope, it's going to get done. So that's that. And it works out nicely because Monday is June 1st, which means I can cast on for my hope. So that's that. The needles, these are Addy Clicks interchangeables, and I am knitting them on US size 7, 4.5 millimeters. I didn't mention it, but my interview with the vampire is on Addy's, not interchangeables, size 4, US size 4. So, needles caught up. My next project, I just had the sudden urge to work on this. I was not knitting on my interview with a vampire because I didn't really have the brain space to devote to working on that, and that requires some thinking. So, but I wanted to work with fingering weight cashmere. I was just in the mood for soft but fine. Well, I have a fingering weight cashmere project, and that is my 3-color cashmere cowl. The designer is Joji Locatelli, and I am knitting it out of Plucky Knitter Primo Fingering. So this here is a Move Over Darling. I'm never going to get the color right, especially today, and I'm starting to lose light even faster. It's way more tealy green. That's looking very, very blue. I'm just not even going to fight with it. This is in my Zoe Designs bag. This is from Zoe's Bag Boutique. Oh gosh, I'm so bad at this. It's linked in the show notes so that you can get to it. I'm going to go backwards again because I keep forgetting things. My 3 cheers is a bag living in a bag, and this is my Kicks and Giggles bag. This is their Naughty bag, as in Knotty. And this bag is cool because it's got the one handle that you string through this loop here, and then you can hold it on your wrist and carry your project around and knit with your yarn right there. So that's kind of cool. I had bought this last year because I was going to a conference, and it was going to be a standing conference, and so I thought if I was going to be standing in lines, I could knit while I was standing, and I could just hold it on my arm. that never happened. It never came to fruition. But anyway, so living in my Zoe's bag. So we have Move Over Darling. We have Heartstrings. And Manderley, which is a deep, deep green. And this is my progress on my cowl. So as you can see, I am all done with the Move Over Darling section. This was a really easy section. There are just some pearl bumps sprinkled throughout. Really, really easy. And then I have joined Heartstrings back in to do this lace panel. There's a couple more stripes, and then ribbing and bind off. Very close to finishing this. Now, if you're paying attention to the chart, you will notice that, well, I mean, you probably wouldn't notice, which is why I'm okay with doing it. I actually ended the Move Over Darling section a little bit early, and the reason for that is that I found that in my yarn. And I saved it just for the sake of showing you. So I just had to end off before I reached that part, because I knew that it was going to show in the knitting, and so I was just like, you know what, I'm okay, I'm at a good stopping place. It's only 4 rows short of what the pattern calls for, so it's not a huge loss that that I ended early. Not a big deal. And let's see, what else did I do differently? The pattern had said, this is a long time ago, the pattern had said to do another of color A, which is my Manderley, before starting my color C, Move Over Darling. I didn't read the pattern, so I just finished off these stripes here and then went straight to Move Over Darling. Not a big deal. The pattern also said to use color A for the lace section, and I chose to use color B. I'm just changing all kinds of things up with this. But this lends itself really well to some personalization. This is a really good, easy to make unique project. So I've got no problems, no qualms with using colors differently. There's 3 colors in it, and it's cashmere and it's cowl. So, you know, that's that. So I don't even know if you would really call them modifications. They're just customizations. 3-color cashmere cowl. And those are all of my works in progress. I'm thinking that by next week I should have 2 finished objects to show you. I think maybe, if I'm diligent. And I have to figure out what to do with the rest of this, because I won't need this color for the rest of my cowl. And I have a significant amount here. My ball is a mess, of course, because they always get messy. So I'm going to have to figure out something to do with this. I don't know, so we'll see. And those are all of my knitting works in progress. I've got nothing else for knitting. I also have no yarn acquisitions or knitting acquisitions. My knitting purchases have ceased temporarily, for a little while, but temporarily. Okay, so let's talk books. I am still, believe it or not, reading A Book of Spirits and Thieves by Morgan Rhodes. Cover should be showing up here or here somewhere. I am a slow reader, basically, was what it boils down to. Knitting so much and stitching so much, there's just very limited time for reading. On top of that, with this past weekend being a 3-day weekend, for Memorial Day, Danny was home. And reading when Danny is home is not really, it's kind of difficult to do. We live in a relatively small house. He relaxes by watching TV. I can't hear myself read effectively. So reading has been a little bit slow. Not a big deal. And the reason that I'm okay with it is because my TBR pile has shrunk. Okay, So just a little bit of history here. When I get books for review with advanced publication dates, so for instance, A Book of Spirits and Thieves won't publish until June 23rd. I will read those books if I can get them read before the publication date. If I can't, then I am more inclined to not read the book. So I have since stopped reading Made You Up by Francesca Zappia. I will probably get a finished copy of that book to read because I still want to read the book, but it's not a priority right now. And so I can just stop reading that. When I got A Book of Spirits and Thieves from Penguin First Reads, I got another book from them. And that book is called Daughter of Deep Silence. The author there is Carrie Ryan. And that book published just this past Tuesday. So I no longer have that looming over my head. The only book that I have to read in the next 5 days is A Book of Spirits and Thieves. And I talked about it last week, but I have to get it read within the next few days because it will expire on my Blue Fire reader. I won't have access to it anymore. The good news is I only have about 120 pages left, so I should be able to do that, no problem. So I will get that read soonly. And it kind of frees up my reading list. Now, I am still reading This Song Will Save Your Life. We extended our read-along date, the TBR book club. We extended our read-along date to the end of June, so I have some more time with that. I'm still reading A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin, but again, that is sort of sitting on the nightstand temporarily, sort of allowing for these other books to take precedence. And I also started an audiobook this week. The audiobook is Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. This is the second book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. It's also probably the third time I've read it. I've read it before, but I haven't listened to the audiobook, and so I'm listening to the audiobook. I really like audiobooks for rereads because if I lose track, I already know the story, so I can get back in. And the other reason that I'm rereading it is because I want to read the final book, and I want to read the final book relatively soon here. So to sort of refresh myself, both with Laini Taylor's writing as well as the world, sort of reacclimate myself to the plot because it's a very intense plot. It's very political. It's fantasy, but it's political, and it's a lot bigger than just a book about angels and chimera. It's bigger than that. So anyway, I'm rereading book 2 before I read book 3. So those are all of the books that I'm reading now. Let's talk about my haul. We'll do the books that I just got, and then I'll talk about what I'm going to read next. So, this week is Book Expo America, and it is a conference that I attended last year. I mentioned it earlier with the project bag that I bought it for BEA to have while standing in line. And I am not at BEA right now, and that makes me very sad, and also extremely envious of those that are. I absolutely loved my experience in the city. It takes place in New York City. I absolutely loved my experience there last year, and now I'm seeing people posting on Instagram and other social media about, who they're meeting and the authors that they're getting a chance to talk with, and the books that they're getting at BEA this year, and I'm just like, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was there. And I'm not there this year, and next year it's in Chicago, And I don't know that I'll be able to go next year because I'm getting married. Don't know if you heard. So the plan and the hope is that BEA will be back in New York in 2017, and then I'm going to try to go because I want so badly to get back to BEA. I want so badly to get back into books and into reading. We're going to have a Thor interruption here. So that is my hope. In the meantime, I'm jealous of everybody at BEA right now. One of my favorite authors, Alexandra Bracken, has her new book there, Passenger, and I love Alexandra Bracken's writing. So I'm like super jealous. That's what it boils down to. So today I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought a couple books. So this is officially my hashtag not at BEA book haul. Some people who aren't at BEA this year are doing the same thing. They're going out and buying books because they can't get the books from BEA. You know, it's like retail therapy. So that's what I did. So let's see. I got 3 books and I had, I want to say 10 in my hands at one point. So the fact that I narrowed it down to 3, truly astonishing. The first book that I bought is something that I don't normally read. It is Under the Lights by Shannon Stacy. This is a contemporary romance, and basically it's romance and he plays football. I think he plays professional football. No, he used to play football. Now he is returning to help coach his high school football team. So that's what this is. This is the first book in a duology. It's currently a 2-book series. However, Shannon Stacy is the author behind the Kowalski family series, which I think is 7 books, maybe 8. So this is currently 2 books. The second book should be out later this year. This just came out, I want to say earlier this week. I think it came out this week. I haven't read contemporary romance in so long that this is going to be different for me. But I love football. And Shannon Stacy is an author that I've wanted to read for a long time. So Shannon Stacy, football was just kind of a no-brainer. I had also looked at picking up Cora Carmack's. She also has a contemporary romance series based around football in the football field. But my Barnes & Noble didn't have the first book, so I'm not doing that one. So I got this one. So that is Under the Lights by Shannon Stacy. And I mean, like, you can tell contemporary that I don't read a lot of contemporary romance because I have like 0 books that are this size. This is teeny tiny. It's so small. So anyway, I got that. The next book that I got is purely the fault of, well, not purely, but Lindsay Ray is a booktuber, and she has talked about this book and particularly this series for a few weeks now, and so I decided to pick up the first book. It is Fortune's Pawn by Rachel Bach. Fortune's Pawn is, Lindsay described it as a space opera, but with like a really badass female character, pardon my language. Essentially, Devi wants to get some experience. And if you join this ship called the Glorious Fool, 1 year of experience on the Glorious Fool is equivalent to 5 years of experience anywhere else. And so she decides to join the Glorious Fool to get some experience. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into this. Lindsay has raved about it. I think she just got the 3rd book. I'm very, very curious about this. I don't normally read space opera, I'll be honest. I'm normally like an a planet, any planet really, fiction or real. That's normally what I read, but I'm really interested in this. So, Fortune's Pond by Rachel Bach, and the series is Paradox. Paradox. So that's that. And then I got a book that is getting a lot of attention these days, despite it being several years old, and it is The Martian by Andy Weir. Now, this book also takes place in space, which I just think is kind of cool. This book was also talked about by Lindsay Ray, as well as Sana from Inkbone's books. This is about our main character, whose name I do not know, Mark. And he is on an expedition to Mars, and something goes wrong, and his companions think that he's dead, and so they leave. They leave him on Mars, all by himself, and so he's basically left to fend for himself on Mars. How terrifying is that? I mean, like, he can't call anybody up and say, hey, come get me, because there's nobody around. He is the only person on this planet. Absolutely terrifying. But also very cool. Now, from what I understand, there's a lot of science talk in this book, which I think is very cool. I'm really anxious to get to read this. And a lot of people have been talking about it because the movie adaptation is in the works for this. And I really want to read the book before I watch the movie. This is so going to be a movie that Danny will want to watch. So I'm really excited to read this and experience the movie with him. So, The Martian by Andy Weir. Now, I've talked about the fact that I read young adult. That's my genre of choice. It's what I like to read. You wouldn't know that based on the 3 books that I just bought, because none of them are for young adults. They're all adults. Adult contemporary romance or adult space opera, science fiction. It's all for adults. Oh well, that's life. I am losing light very quickly here, so I'm going to try to make this quick. We've got a storm that's rolling in. So let's talk about what's coming up. Next week, from June 1st through June 7th, there is a readathon taking place on BookTube, which is essentially YouTube for book readers. And it's become this great big huge community. Anyway, so the readathon is #TBR Takedown, and it was started by Shannon, and her channel is Leaning Lights. I'll be sure to link it in the description box. And I have decided to participate. She says in the guidelines that you can use one book to cover multiple challenges, because she set 5 challenges to go along with the readathon. And so these are kind of bonus challenges. Like, the goal for the readathon is to read as much as you can in a week, but these challenges are like bonuses. And so I am basing my TBR for the readathon on those challenges. I cannot read 5 books in a week, and so I have chosen 2.5 for the readathon. So the first challenge is to choose a book that has been on your TBR shelf for at least a year, if not more. And so this is where one or the other comes in. I have either Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor, which is published last year in April, or I have Sky on Fire, Book 2 of Monument 14 by Emmy Laybourne. And this published in 2013, and it is a sequel to Monument 14. And basically the reason that I can't decide between these two is the sheer size. I want to read Dreams of Gods and Monsters because I love this series so much, but this is more readathon friendly. So I may choose this, and then later on I might read this in the readathon, but I may read this first and then go back to this one. So we'll see what happens. Okay. The second challenge is to choose a book that is a sequel on your TBR shelf. So, between two, Dreams of Gods and Monsters and Monument 14, Sky on Fire. So again, I'm going to go with Monument 14, Sky on Fire to meet that challenge. And I will pick up Dreams and Gods and Monsters after I'm done with the challenge books. Now, the next three are related to one book that I have on my TBR for this readathon. So the third challenge is to choose a book that is the first book in a series. And so I have Under the Lights by Shannon Stacy. This is the first book in a duology. Currently it's a duology. Like I said, it may become a full-size series later on. Who knows? But it is nonetheless our first book in a continuing series. So there's that. The next challenge is to choose a book that is out of your comfort zone. This is out of my comfort zone. I mentioned earlier that I don't read a lot of adult contemporary romance. I hardly ever read adult contemporary romance, and so this will fit that challenge as well. And then the last challenge is to choose a book that you got in your most recent book haul. My most recent book haul was about 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to do this one because it was in my most recent book haul. So there we go. And so those are the books that I intend on reading for TBR Takedown Readathon. I would also like to pick up the other books that I was currently reading before I recorded today, but that's all dependent on the readathon. I would like to accomplish those challenges before I pick up those books again. I will be recording next Thursday, weather pending, and so I can give you an update on the readathon and how things are going. So those are the books that I plan on reading. And those are all the books that I wanted to talk about. And that's all of everything that I wanted to talk about. So before I sneeze, because I've got one working its way, I just wanted to say, again, thank you so much for watching and for subscribing and for your continued support. It's so, so cool. And I will see you all next week.